The Bani Serpent, a tale from the depths. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the arid Sahel, as the Bani River snaked through the dusty plains like a lifeline, dark, silent, and foreboding. For centuries, the villagers of Bani Kula had thrived along its banks, their livelihoods tethered to the river's capricious moods. But beneath its murky surface something ancient stirred, something hungry. It had been a particularly harsh dry season. The river, now swollen from the sudden rains, glistened in the twilight like a serpent ready to strike. The villagers whispered about the Bani Serpent, a creature of monstrous size that lived within the river, slumbering for decades, waking only to claim the souls of those who ventured too close to its waters. Most dismissed it as a tale to scare children, until the bodies began washing ashore. It started with Kasim, a seasoned fisherman known for his daring. He was fearless, many said. Some called him foolish. As the village gathered one evening around the flickering fire, Kasim loaded his small, weather-beaten boat, ignoring the warnings of the village elder, Amadou.
"The Bani is not to be tested, Kasim. Not tonight."
Amadou's voice was low, filled with an urgency that made the younger men uneasy. Kasim scoffed.
"Old stories to keep the brave from earning their keep. There are fish to catch, old man."
But Kasim never returned. The following morning his boat was found adrift, empty save for a smear of blood on its edge, and deep scratches along the wooden hull, as though something had clawed at it. The village buzzed with fear. Kasim's wife, Aysata, wailed by the riverside, her voice echoing over the water as if the river itself had swallowed her sorrow. The disappearances continued. Issa, a young boy fetching water, vanished without a trace. Seydou, another fisherman, was last seen rowing under a full moon, his boat never found. In every case, the only evidence left behind were strange, serpentine marks on the riverbanks, too large to be from any known animal. Amadou gathered the village under the baobab tree and spoke of the legend passed down through generations.
"There is a creature, older than any of us can remember, a guardian of this river. The Bani Serpent does not hunger for fish. It craves flesh, the blood of men who disturb its peace."
Amadou's words sent shivers down the spines of the villagers. Though most had dismissed the old tales for years, the fear now was palpable. Mothers kept their children far from the river, and the once bustling fishing trade ground to a halt. But not everyone was afraid. Yaro, Kasim's brother, refused to believe in fairy tales. Driven by grief and rage, he swore to kill the creature and end the curse. Armed with nothing but a harpoon and a lantern, Yaro set off one moonless night, his heart pounding with every stroke of the oar. The river was eerily still as Yaro drifted further from the shore, the lantern's flickering light barely illuminating the thick mist that curled over the water like breath from a sleeping beast. Hours passed with nothing but the gentle lapping of the water against his boat. But Yaro wasn't alone. A sudden splash echoed through the night, sending ripples across the surface. His heart raced, his grip tightening on the harpoon. From the darkness beneath him the water began to bubble and churn. Then he saw it, the faint outline of something massive, moving just below the surface. The serpent was real. Its body was dark as the night, scales glistening in the lantern's glow, eyes glowing an unnatural yellow. It rose slowly from the depths, towering over Yaro's boat, its gaping maw lined with jagged teeth, dripping with river water. Yaro screamed and threw his harpoon with all his might, but the creature swatted it away like a child's toy. The last thing Yaro saw before the water pulled him under was the serpent's eyes, ancient, cruel, and infinitely hungry. Yaro's body was never found. His boat was discovered days later overturned, with more of the same deep scratches carved into the wood. The villagers knew then what they had long feared. The Bani Serpent demanded a tribute, and no one was safe. In desperation, the village elders gathered. They recalled the stories of old, how the serpent could be appeased, at least for a time, through a sacrifice. A life given willingly would save many. The village was silent as Amadou spoke the unthinkable. Aissata, still grieving the loss of her husband Kasim, stepped forward. Her voice was steady, though her eyes were filled with tears.
If it is my life the serpent craves, I will give it. But let this end here.
That night, Aissata was rowed out to the center of the river, her hands clasped in prayer. As she sat in the boat, the villagers watched from the shore, hearts heavy with sorrow. The water began to ripple, and once more the serpent emerged, its monstrous form rising from the depths. Without a word, Aissata stood and stepped into the river's embrace. The water closed over her, and the serpent vanished into the deep, leaving nothing but silence in its wake. The disappearances stopped, and the river returned to its calm, life-giving self. But the legend of the Bani Serpent would never fade. Even now, the villagers of Bani Kula tell the tale, warning anyone who would dare challenge the river's dark guardian. For the serpent still sleeps beneath the Bani's waters, and its hunger will return one day. And when it does, the river will once again demand its tribute.